presentation, discussion, appropriate action regarding the status of the District Attorney's high-risk intake team and the current condition of the intake backlog, authorizing the Bexar County Criminal District Attorney to continue the utilization of unused funds in the amount of $121,762 resulting from vacant positions with the Office of the District Attorney to fund the high-risk intake team to aid in the identification of high-risk criminal cases and assist in the reduction of the intake division backlog. I want to thank our DA Joe Gonzalez and his team for this presentation. I will let the court know that we had a very productive meeting. I believe Commissioner Moody, you and your staff were in attendance with the District Attorney and our county public safety stakeholders, that committee that I just made reference to. County Manager's Office was there, the Sheriff's Office, BCIT, our Information Technology, Criminal District Courts, Managed Assigned Counsel, Crime Lab, Office of Criminal Justice. Obviously, there's much more work. One of the purposes I asked for that meeting prior to this meeting was to hopefully address all the issues and have a dialogue and collaboration. Obviously, we have a more narrow presentation dealing with a specific issue with the high-risk intake team. So I'll ask of the court that we can maybe get into a work session. If you have much questions concerning all the issues that were discussed yesterday, and Commissioner Moody, you may want to comment on some of the things that were discussed today. So I want to allow the District Attorney's Office. I will alert staff and the public that I intend to call a recess so that we can take a lunch break, and then we'll come back. I realize some people may have thought they would be able to get in. We're doing our very best to accommodate everybody's wishes. So, Mr. Gonzalez, our District Attorney, you have the floor.
Thank you, Judge Sakai, and good afternoon, everyone. I have been allotted about 15 minutes for my presentation, and my hope is to get through my presentation within those 15 minutes. I do have several members of my staff on standby in case there are specific questions that I may not be able to answer, but let me begin by talking about, I have been invited to report to Commissioner's Court about the status of a request that we had last year to move some money. It was a budget neutral request because we didn't ask for any more money that wasn't already allocated to us, but this is to form what we called the high-risk intake team. So I'm going to report on the progress of that, as well as just generally the status of our intake division and how we are doing on these cases. Specifically, the term backlog has been bandied about, and so hopefully at the end of this, you will have a better understanding of what is and what is not a backlog in our office. Certainly, those of us inside our office understand what constitutes a backlog, but there may be some confusion that hopefully we'll be able to clarify. Let me begin by saying that in November of last year, I have my first assistant here, Tamara Strouch, on standby in the event that she needs to answer any questions that I may not be able to provide. In November of last year, our office came to you requesting a budget-neutral plan to tackle some of what we identified as a backlog, and we called this program the High-Risk Intake Initiative. At that time, we identified it in September as a backlog of about 6,300 cases, specifically 6,330 cases. This included bond cases that were 180 days old. That is, when someone's arrested but then bonds out of jail. That also included at-large cases that were a year old. That is, cases where someone hasn't been arrested, but cases are filed in our office that we have to review and make a charging decision on. This number did not include fugitive cases because that information was not available to us when we requested this initiative be funded. And it's also important to note that the backlog doesn't equal all pending pre-indictment cases in our office at that time. The total number of the pending pre-indictment cases that we identified back during September of last year was 13,889, so almost 14,000 cases. And it's also important to keep in mind when looking at the overall cases that are pending indictment that our office receives on the average of about 23,000 felony cases per year for review. So there will always be pending pre-indictment cases in our office. That certainly has been the case since I first walked in January of 2019. The problem is when these cases exceed those number of days that I've already talked about, and then they fall into the category of being part of a backlog. If we look at the slide, the second slide that indicates that back in September of 23, we had, again, a total cases waiting indictment, 13,000, almost 900 cases. If we look to May of this year, and that's going to be significant because in June is when we transitioned into our new county case management system. But you can see that we had a 14% reduction in total cases that were waiting indictment from September of 23 to May of 24. Part of the reason for this success is because we had a good number of our prosecutors that were willing to participate in what I call the overtime pay program, this high-risk initiative. Again, we asked for money that was already allocated to our office, but we asked to be able to spend so that money that wasn't being spent because we had vacancies in our office. We actually were approved, I think it was $295,000. We have so far spent $173,000, almost $174,000. So about 58% of the money that was approved, we've already spent. We've had 45 prosecutors of 166 that were eligible to participate in this program. That is, prosecutors that have enough experience to be able to review felony cases. And keep in mind, again, they're doing this on the weekends, they're doing this in the evening, they're doing this in addition to preparing their own cases for trial. But again, 45 of these prosecutors stepped up and were willing to participate in this program. Part of the reason for the success that we then had in increasing the number of indictments is because we had those 45 prosecutors help to reduce these pending cases. You can see that from this slide up there that during the period, the first part of this year, from January to May of this year, we had a 41% increase in the total number of indictments compared to that same period last year. So we went from 4,627 to 6,520. But if you look at the second part of the year, that is from June 24 to the present time, to actually November of this year, then we saw a decrease, and I believe it says 10% decrease. And so we asked ourselves, what is it that caused this decrease? What is it that caused us to have to slow down? We have actually identified 5 different factors that has caused this delay. No one factor by itself, but did contribute to a slowdown. And it's important for this Commissioner's Court and the public to understand that, again, it was a combination of different factors. The first of which is that is when we transitioned into the new case management system that is called Odyssey. At the end of May is when we transitioned, and since we have gone live, the Bexar County DA's office has had a significant decrease in indictments office-wide. Some of this was due to errors in the system for the first couple of months after go live, which we have identified on this screen. You can see there are 4 different types of issues that we've had. But the good news is that we are collaborating with Bexar County IT to resolve this data and reporting issue problem. I would like to commend Mark Gager and his team for constantly working with us to overcome these issues. So we're moving forward, and we're trying to get over the growing pains of transitioning into this new system. In addition to that, we identified that digital evidence has increased over time. It's different today, for example, than when Tamara and I first started as prosecutors 30, 35 years ago. I remember when I first started, for example, a family violence misdemeanor case may have one police report, may have a photograph of the alleged victim, and that's it. Well, today, when some law enforcement responds to a call, there may be several officers. There may be 10, 15, sometimes 20 officers. They each have body cameras, so we have to review that body cam footage. And so it takes a lot more time for the average prosecutor today to review those cases than it did back in the day when Tamara and I were first young prosecutors. As a matter of fact, if you can, as you'll see here, this is not cooperating. Is there somebody that can help me move to the next slide? Looks like we've lost it. Well, let me see if I can just continue the discussion without it. Over the last 10 years, since 2014, the document evidence has increased by 727%. The video evidence, again, remember I talked about the body cam footage, that's increased by 1,518%. And then photo evidence has increased by 19,522%. Oh, we have it back up. Perfect. Here we go. So that's, you can see there just the vast amount of evidence that we're having to review today. And so what that has done is increase exponentially, year by year, and continues to do that. In addition to that, another factor we've identified is evidence transfer. We still are not at the stage where the evidence that is coming over from law enforcement like SAPD and Bexar County Sheriff's Department is talking to our system as efficiently as it could. The positive aspect, though, is this Commissioner Court has already approved funding for a contract with Axon, so that eventually next year we will come on board with evidence.com. But in the meantime, prosecutors today spend a significant amount of time working with law enforcement to ensure that we receive all the evidence that's associated with the case, and the time that time has significantly increased. You can see from this slide that just SAPD, we have 3,388 cases awaiting evidence transfer to our office. The second part of that says that our office has 133,000 individual items of evidence from SAPD, again, awaiting import by BCIT into the Bexar County Digital Evidence Management System. Again, you see that it takes a lot in order for us to process our cases. In addition to that, another factor that we've identified are the drug cases that we see in our office. The Bexar County Crime Lab also has a backlog that has contributed to the slowdown of these cases. Again, at this point, I want to acknowledge the work that Dr. Greenfield, that Orrin Dim, and everybody in the Crime Lab has been exerting in order for us to move these cases forward. The Bexar County DA's office, let me see if I can step back. Here we go. The Bexar County DA's office has 4,778 cases. I'm sorry, let me step back and say that those are the number of submissions awaiting testing at the Bexar County Crime Lab. In our office, we are awaiting test results on 2,786 submissions. The significance to that is we obviously cannot go forward on a drug case and obtain an indictment without a drug result. And it's also important to note that a submission may result in more than one case. For example, if a submission includes 3 different drugs, fentanyl, cocaine, and methamphetamines, then you may have 3 different charges for that one submission. Again, of the 5,276 drug cases awaiting testing, 922 of those cases we've identified as people being in custody in the Bexar County Jail. There are other sorts of delays in the crime lab that has caused some delays for our office. For example, DNA analysis and other issues, but primarily they're the drug cases that we are seeing that are causing some challenges in our office. And finally, the last factor that we've identified as being contributing to or having contributed to any sort of delay in our office are staff shortages. At any time, we are 20, 21 lawyers down in our office, and I think since October of 2023, we've averaged about 21 lawyers down or vacancies per month. We are improving with that, again, fortunately, because of the recent funding from this court, where we've been able to see raises in our attorney staff. We've seen a reduction in people leaving for better paying jobs, and again, we thank the Commissioners Court for that. In addition to that, we are taking other steps to ensure that we get the optimum number of lawyers that we can possibly have. We're recruiting several law schools throughout the state. We are going out and meeting with different agencies, Texas District and County Attorneys Association, San Antonio Bar Association, and other areas to try and recruit as many lawyers as possible. We also have other additional programs that are going to help with our backlog. For example, the county has allowed us to purchase additional licenses and batch importers for the current evidence management system, which could increase the speed in which we receive evidence until we go online with evidence.com. Additionally, we are working, as I mentioned, with the Bexar County Crime Lab Director to expedite the testing of drug case submissions for defendants that are awaiting indictment in custody and on bond. We've always made jail cases a priority. We continue to do that, and so we are working with the crime lab to ensure that we're ready to go to trial when we are called. So all these efforts are increasing and improving the number of cases that are in queue waiting to be processed. We are also, as I mentioned, exploring other avenues to try and look for alternatives to have more hands-on in our office, to have more attorneys review these cases so that we can hopefully reduce the amount of cases that are pending in our office. And so part, again, for the reason in the success that we're having has been approval of this high-risk reduction initiative that the court has approved. We still have an amount of $121,762 that hasn't been expended. So we're asking the court to allow us to continue this program, to continue to pay these prosecutors for the overtime work that they have already done and will hopefully continue to do, so that we can continue to see an increase in the success that we've had in our office. Again, I want to thank the commissioners for the opportunity to talk about the work that we are doing and that we have done.